Welcome, everyone. This is Radar Love Live, our first show of 2025. Oh, I like how that sounds, that little rhyme there. We're going to be talking about what executives really tell their coaches. So it's the behind the scenes, I don't know, kind of like we're like peeping Toms. Can I say that? Is that PC? I'm going to say it anywhere. We're not PC. But we're going to be dishing on what our clients and those within our leadership circle come to us and talk to us about and the top priorities that they're working on for 2025. So, for those of you who do not know us, I am Rachel Lee. I'm the Chief Operating Officer now.
What do you mean now?
I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Canthel Group. I'm an executive coach for women. I say I keep powerful women in power by optimizing all facets of their life. So that includes home life, personal life, professional life, and longevity. So I'm a health and wellness specialist as well as executive leadership coach. And Darren Canthel is our fearless founder. He helps executives get their shit together. He's our CEO and executive coach, long history of HR, and we are all about candor and no bullshit. So before we kick it off, we always start with a bad dad joke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have
Oh,
notes
my
for
God,
that.
slacker.
No, I got it. It's on my calendar.
All right, let's go. What's our bad dad joke before we dive in?
I accidentally gave my girlfriend a glue stick instead of chapstick. She's still not talking to me.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. All right, our take 5 today, we're going to be discussing health and nutrition, home life, being vulnerable with your coach, how we're making our lives harder, and how to 10x your life. So let's kick it off with health and nutrition, its impact on performance as a leader, and how we advocate keeping it simple, but more importantly, staying consistent. So you're on a huge, I say huge, okay, but I think it's kind of big. You're on a pretty significant challenge, and you've also done a lot of work on your health and nutrition. So what are you seeing with yourself and with your clients?
I feel like that's a question for you. You're the health expert.
Okay, so I've been talking the whole time. So why don't you tell us?
Okay. Well, Rachel and I met because I do air quotes, hired her as my nutritionist. And the only reason I say hired is because I never got a bill. But
You never paid.
you never sent a bill.
Well, it was, Okay, anyway, go ahead.
So starting back in, I want to say it was 2000 and maybe even 13, I started realizing that I was having some health challenges, primarily with food. Over the last 10 years plus, Rachel and I met in 16. I'm dairy free, I'm gluten free. I have all these little nuancy things that are a pain in the ass, literally and figuratively. The challenge Rachel's talking about is yesterday, Monday, which was January 6th, I started 75 Hard, which is a program where for 75 days, I need to work out twice a day for 45 minutes each. One workout has to be outside. I have to follow a diet. So no cheat days, no drinking, no stuff. I have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, so something in the professional development self-help category. I have to drink a gallon of water, and I have to take progress pictures every day. So those are the 5 main elements, I think. And so I started that yesterday. In addition to what I am struggling with or have consistently struggled with is consistency. I have a structure of a diet that I eat. I'm gluten-free and dairy-free, as I said, but I crave carbs. If I don't have enough food at the office, I come home and I eat everything in the cupboard. And so I get annoyed because my weight doesn't change, my body composition doesn't seem to change, and I live with a nutritionist, and she will point out that, of course, my body's not changing because I'm inconsistent. I don't do the things that I know work. And this is where maybe I'll toss it back to you, Rachel, is that you coach people with business, career, and health. So you hear all of the excuses. Mine is, I just want the whole package of double stuffed Oreos. I just want a salt craving. And so what I do is I allow my want to drive, and then I succumb to the want, and then I complain that my body doesn't change.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this. Like, it's a lot easier to drink the thing, eat the thing, consume the thing. It's a lot easier just to have the double stuffed Oreos, to drink the bottle of wine, than it is in the short term, than it is to make the change for the long term. Like being sober, I think, is, at least still for now, I think is harder than just consuming the thing. So one of the things that my clients talk about is, my life is hard enough the way it is. I can't imagine, changing my diet to repair my health or optimize my health, because when am I going to do that? I'm like, it's too hard. And so I don't want to stack hard on top of hard, which we'll get to when we talk about, like, you're making life too hard, right? If your life is that hard that you can't prioritize your health, which is the thing that actually drives your success and keeps you alive on earth, then you're probably doing life wrong. Like, as direct as I can say, let's be candid here, right? So we're focusing on the wrong things, and we're not prioritizing the thing that actually generates the asset that generates the success. And so what happens is January comes and people want to make these extreme changes. This is it. This is a year. I'm going to figure it out. And they will do something like a 75 hard, which I fully support you, right? I fully support you and whatever you got to do. Or they'll do a whole 30, or they'll do a juice cleanse. They'll do something that's quote unquote extreme or even challenging when they haven't even mastered the basics. And so you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're raising the bar too high when you haven't even, like, you're at the top of the rung of the ladder when you haven't even taken that first step up. So we got to make it simple, and you got to be able to master the basics. What are the basics? Drink water, move your body, sleep a minimum of 8 hours, consistently take your supplements, learn how to de-stress. Like, don't expect yourself to, quite frankly, succeed at these New Year's goals unless you can master the basics first. That's the foundation. And the research that we did is 9% of people will actually follow through and accomplish their New Year's health and nutrition resolutions. They're too hard. Chill out. Go to the basics. Now, you've already done the basics, so 75 hard for you is like, that's your next level challenge. Okay, and here's what I want to say too. I've made this note, okay? Listen, maybe I'm talking to you. Is when you go to extremes and you make things really difficult, you're setting yourself up for failure. You most likely will fail. And then you use that failure against you. And I hear clients say, I just can't figure it out. Nothing works. It doesn't matter what I do. And that's because you're always moving the finish line. Stop doing that and stay consistent, master the basics, and then add on when that becomes easy, habitual. You don't even have to think about it. Okay, what do you think about that?
I want to fight you.
Fight me, let's go.
Now, what was going through my head was a couple of things. One is, some of the reading that I've done is people like me will do a 75 hard, a whole 30, whatever it is. And after it's over, we have no transition plan. We go from eating clean for 30 days or doing the 75 hard, and then on day 31 or day 76, we go back to pre-programmed norms. So that's something that I'll be real focused on for myself. The other is when we find things that work, it's like once they start working, we abandon them. And I know you hear a lot about this with your clients is we know, or I know, or your clients know that a certain dietary protocol or a certain supplement lineup is working to produce whatever results we seek. And then once we see the result, we're like, okay, we reached the pinnacle. We can go back. And it's like absurd. It's folly. Why we would think that what's working has worked and it's done. And then we're going to go back to what we did prior and have the same result as when we were following the protocol. Hopefully that made sense. It seemed like a lot of words, but
Yeah, if it's working, don't change it
yes.
unless it changes. Okay, so consistency, the hardest part about changing your nutrition or your health, like exercise consistency, is staying consistent. It's obeying what you said you were going to do, obeying what works, obeying the protocol. That's the work. Anybody can actually eat fairly nutritious foods and whole food. Like that is actually not the hard part. It's doing it consistently to maintain the results. That's the mind work that must go with the protocol that you're doing. I promise you, I've done this. I've been for 14 years. I have been doing this plus all of my education on top of that since college. Okay, so what I want to talk about, yeah,
Full
I'm
screen.
not shifting gears.
Oh, you're not. Okay, sorry.
No. What I did want to talk about is your health and nutrition, its impact on your performance at work. Okay, and it's not just at work. So it's also at home and it's at work, but it has a profound impact on how you show up, what you can produce, your level of creativity, your patience with your team, your patience with your spouse or partner or family. Like it drives everything. So what have you experienced when your health has been, quite frankly, kind of shitty?
Excuse me?
Yeah, it has been kind of crappy.
I notice it more now than when it was crappy in your words. I'm not dialed in, but I think I'm more dialed in. And what I start noticing is little nuance. Is if I eat things that inflame me internally, I don't think as sharp. I can't find my words as easily. I default to impatience. I get annoyed super quick about the stupidest things. When I get impatient, I get barky and I get aggressive and I'm in your face. And I'm like, that's kind of like the energy behind me. And it's not good. Very simply put. Like I'm not operating at my best. Period. So I noticed that, I think we talked about this back in December as we pigged out at Woody's Pizza in Golden. And the next day I noticed an impact to not just my gut and my GI, but also my mood and my brain fog. And so what I notice is the cleaner I eat, the better I treat myself, the more I exercise, the better I feel, period. And I'm more optimal in the way I operate in all aspects.
Yeah. And what's unfortunate is most of us don't even know what well feels like. And once you do know, like the slightest deviance from that is exponentially noticeable and has a greater impact than when you're unwell. When you're unwell, your baseline is unwell, it's low, right? Like and you can keep putting stuff in and it doesn't really have that much of an impact. So what I will say is for anybody listening is at least experience being well. Just experience it. And then decide, like, do I want to stay there? Is it worth staying there? Is it worth the effort? But at least give yourself that fighting chance because it feels so good. And not just that it feels good for you, it's good for everything else in your life. Like everything else really is optimized. It's pretty profound. Like you said, I've ruined you with health. Because, right, you can't go out and eat the Woodies every single weekend or the burgers or go to a show and party like you used to. Like you have a narrow lane now, but that staying in that lane is now worth it to you. And then you choose when you want to go outside of that. So I would say this, right? Because we work with leaders and executives and entrepreneurs, executive entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs always forget, like, you're an executive too. Is if you want to, quite frankly, be a better leader, and that's not just in your profession, it's also in your home and your community, work on your health, period. It will have a trickle effect on every aspect of your life. I can guarantee you that.
All right, 2 more things on this topic.
Do it. We always get sucked into this topic, and then we have very little time for the rest.
All right, 2 things. So I hear what you're saying about get well for people listening, get well, and then use that as your baseline. And it's a big jump for some people. So as the non-nutritionist of the two of us, a couple of experiments that I've run more recently, last couple of years, is number one, coffee. I noticed for a few months, literally 2 or 3, 4 months, I was waking up every morning with a headache. And something intuitively came to my brain, which is it was coffee related. So I ran an experiment and started an experiment about a month ago where I drink 2 of these a day, if not more, that one is caffeinated and one is decaffeinated. And so that little experiment resulted in me not waking up with headaches every day. So that's one way that maybe is a stepping stone for somebody. Maybe your thing is not coffee, but maybe it's fill in the blank, a bag of chips, or you drink 7 glasses of wine, so now you're going to choose to drink 6 glasses of wine, whatever it is. And that, go ahead.
Before you go off of that, I want to just remind you, the melatonin was a huge piece of that too. And
So
a lot of clients take melatonin to sleep because they don't sleep well.
What was that one? What was my? I was getting fatigued in the afternoon.
You were what?
I was getting fatigued in the afternoon.
Yeah, you were like lethargic. You were waking up with a daily headache. So the common no.
No, so the melatonin thing was around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and into the evening. Like I was exhausted. I was so tired. My legs were heavy. I felt fatigued. I was lethargic. The headache was coffee. Mm-hmm. And I've been taking melatonin for years. And so Rachel did some research and found that a side effect of melatonin is the heavy legs, the fatigue, the tired, the exhaustion. So I weaned myself off of the melatonin. And yes, it impacted my sleep a little bit, but not terribly. And that kind of cured the lethargy in the afternoon. So another little experiment. The other one I was going to say is, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, I cut out any sort of French fry or tater tot from restaurants. And that had a positive effect on my GI. So my whole point in sharing some of those is, yes, be well may be too much of a jump for some people. So maybe there's some stepping stones that are comparative to the coffee, the melatonin, and the fried foods.
Yeah, I mean, again, like think of your health as a ladder. And what I'm saying is like be well is at the top of the ladder. And I'm encouraging people, go back to some basic things. Like if you're not doing, first rung on the ladder, are you drinking at least 3 liters of water a day? Great, master that. Second rung on the ladder, are you eating 1 to 2 cups of vegetables at every meal? Once you master that, great, go up. The problem is that we are an immediate gratification society and we don't want to take an entire year, or in some of my clients' cases, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5 years to completely heal, depending on how compromised their system is. You've been working on your digestion since you've met me, right? And we're so close, and that's been 8 years. And most people are unwilling to stick with it that long to get to the top of the rung of the ladder to understand what wellness looks like. Look, even if you're halfway up the ladder, is going to be a profound impact on how you feel and how you show up. And if that's as far as you want to go, great, but get off the ground floor. Take one step and keep it super simple. Basics. Everybody knows the basics. And if you don't, that's where you find us. You go to don't go to the internet. Find a nutritionist to help you with some of the basics. But we all know the basics. It's everything you say you quote unquote should do and you don't do. Start there.
All right. We just spent 20 minutes on nutrition.
God, every time.
You have 1 minute. Talk about full script for 1 minute.
Oh, full script. So yeah, here's the thing. If you're taking supplements, which the supplements are $1 billion industry, and a lot of supplements, quite frankly, are shit. They don't have efficacy reports and they don't have third party testing. So when I work with my clients, just so you know, you will be recommended professional medical grade supplements that work. They're proven to work to do what they say they're going to do. So we use a platform called Full Scripts. So for anybody out there that's going to Costco and you're buying Kirkland CoQ10, please stop. You are literally flushing your money down the toilet. At least check out and experience some professional grades. And we're going to put the link in the show notes so you can log into our account. And it's not just supplements too. So if you're interested in a non-toxic life, you can get facial products. There's products for your pets. There's house products to get clean up the toxins in your world. It's super simple. So we'll drop that in there. That's where you and I live. We spend hundreds of dollars there each month because we're just unwilling to put, if you're trying to clean up your health and your diet, right, and you're taking crap out, why would you put crap back in? Don't do that.
Nice.
2 minutes. Done.
Just over a minute.
Damn it.
Close.
I can't help it. Okay, so we are moving off of that topic because we talk about it all the time, but that's because it's a core value of mine with our clients to optimize everything. So let's talk about behind the scenes, clients, executive leaders come into us, home life.
You want me to go?
Let's go.
All right. So one of the things I talk to my clients quite a bit about is I am not a believer in the old adage of check your emotions at the door. I think it's dated. I don't think it's effective, period. What I often say to my clients is you play multiple roles all day long. So I'm looking at you, babe, right? You are a mom. You are my partner. You are a business owner. You are a biker. You are a runner. You are a friend. You're a daughter. Right? So at any given time, you play 7 roles just off of what I just shared. And to act or believe or pretend like you can't be one of those roles when you come to work or vice versa is bullshit. Now, with that being said, is what I also tell a lot of my clients is if you and I are having an argument, I don't check that at the door. Like it's always in my brain. My brain is occupied with a low buzz or a high buzz of like, we're fighting. Why are we fighting? What's going on? What was my role? What was your role? What stories am I telling myself, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. When coaches, consultants, professionals, whoever act as though we will not and cannot talk about your home life because we're here focused on your executive life, again, that's bullshit. When you talk about optimize your everything, I'm not going to steal your thunder on it. Part of what that means to me is your home life as ideal as it can be? Are you having open conversations with your family? Are you leaning into explicit agreements and discussions where we talk about the things? Or are we leaning into the mind reading of implicit agreements? Right? So home life affects. If your home life is not as optimal as possible, it is going to bleed into your executive presence. So in order to be the best professional possible, the best human possible, the best parent, spouse, etc., yes, your health needs to be ideal and your home life has to be as ideal as possible.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we're going to just automatically combine number 2 and number 3 of the Take 5 together, home life and vulnerability with your coach. Because you and I, right, we're in the same team of our lives are not lived in silos. Therefore, your coaching shouldn't be either. And so I've heard, on my runs with my girls, they're like, I would never talk to my executive coach about my marriage or my problems with my kids. And I'm like, why not? That probably is impacting you more than you can even imagine. And a coach is there to coach you through all the struggles, obstacles, barriers, blocks, whatever there is. So it doesn't have to be isolated to coaching leaders. When I work with my clients, honestly, we talk about the other stuff almost more than we talk about their leadership. I have a client who she overworks because she doesn't want to go home. I have a client who she is just exhausted all the time because her marriage is crumbling. And I will say, emotional exhaustion, emotional stress is way more debilitating than physical stress. You go run a marathon and you're going to recover from that. Like, give yourself a week and you're good to go. You are in a stressful marriage, and that is 24/7, and emotional stress, it takes you out. There's no recovery period unless you repair the problem. So we encourage you to go to your executive coach or go to any coach, but you can't separate that out. And so start looking at like what we have used. We've used different tools that we use for ourselves and we use with our clients. We use the emotional jug. We use explicit agreements. We use the concept of same team. Like, look, we're trying to get to the same finish line here. We're on the same team. It's an automatic diffusing of if something starts to get heightened. Like, we know, we can go back and look at LinkedIn Lives when we've been fighting. And man, I look pissed. I don't want to talk to you. I just want to fight. and then I can't do anything else. It really affects how you show up as a leader.
You made a good point that I want to come back to, and that is if leadership was as easy as following any how-to book, every leader would be the best in the world. But it's not that easy. And to your point is oftentimes the things that are holding our clients back is not so much their leadership effectiveness per se. It is all the other stuff that occupies their brain. It's the insecurities, it's the conversations they're having, it's the crumbling marriage, it's all the other stressors outside of work that seems to impact their leadership. And if you ignore those things, or you're not willing to bring them to your coach, or you're not even willing to look at them, then you are in essence stunting your own growth at that ceiling that you've created for yourself.
What you just said there reminded me when I was training high-level athletes. And the one thing that you always do when you're training an athlete is you have to take into consideration, you have to know and take into consideration their total stress load. So if you're my athlete and I come in and I'm being myopic and only coaching you to physical stress load of your training program, I'm gonna overtrain you. You're gonna get sick. You're not gonna perform. You're not gonna repair. You're not gonna recover. You're not gonna perform well, period. But when we open that up and say, what's the overall stress load, we factor that into the training program to ensure that we're not overstressing you, which then leads to burnout. And I know you don't like that word, but it truly is. So whatever you want to call it on your end. You have to take into consideration the global picture of your life when you're looking at your leadership and when you're working with your executive coach. If you're not, well, I'm not going to tell you what happens. You're probably experiencing it for yourself.
Well, I remember you telling me with some of the athletes that you coached, I mean, these are people that did Ironmans, that one of your initial questions was, do you have the support of your spouse?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you don't, that impacts everything.
I mean, I can think about my own training. I mean, I did a half Ironman a couple years ago, and you were instrumental in making sure I had enough food on the ride and when I returned. You would help me map out the route so I could refill water, for instance, or, from doing bricks, right? Doing the bike ride to the run, making sure my socks and my shoes were ready, and so it wasn't like you were the admin, but you were supporting me. You wanted me to be successful, so you had my back, as opposed to being resentful of the fact that I was doing this thing and then making it even more challenging. So not even it's multiplied or compounded by, not only are you not supporting me, but you're pissed about me doing it. So then the global stress load is that much greater.
Yeah, then you're out on the bike ride, equivalent to going to work, right? Your bike ride of training, or you're being an athlete at work, like, right? Then you're constantly thinking about that. On top of that, your stress, your cortisol levels. So let's get a little sciencey here, right? You need cortisol to make adrenaline to go. So number one, you're physically activating and outputting cortisol to make adrenaline. So that's high. And then in your head, you're thinking about, oh, Rachel's pissed at me, or now I'm going to have to make up for, oh my God, that was my marriage. I have to make up for going for a run and overcompensate and blah, 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 blah. And there's going to be a fight when I get home. Cortisol is going to be pushed up high again. Stress is stress. Stress releases cortisol. Cortisol then has a profound impact on inflammation, immune function, your blood sugar, so insulin regulation, blood sugar, which can lead to weight gain. Like, it's a fucking disaster if all areas are not optimized. And so all that to say is, use your coach, be vulnerable, take a chance, and use your coach for more than just teach me how to be a leader. Teach me how to be a leader in my life, in my marriage, as a parent, as a community member, and at work.
I remember seeing this. It was a meme, and it said, "It takes courage to be the leader you always knew you could be." And I like that, and I think you could replace leader with human, parent, spouse, athlete, etc. Like, it takes courage to step into those things. And you talked earlier about it's harder to be sober than it is just to drink, and I think that's more applied to the social setting. Right? You go to the Christmas party or the New Year's party or a concert or whatever we choose to do, and usually, at least in our world, a lot of people around us are drinking at the bare minimum. And it's very easy then to grab that drink and be part of the crew, part of the experience, as opposed to the outsider that's not. That takes more energy. That's hard.
Yes. Yes. I think so, at least. Maybe not for other people, but I think it is. So hard, that's harder. Let's go into number 4, take 5. Choose your hard. And quite frankly, what I see a lot of my clients do is making their life harder than it needs to be. And I'm going to say it as directly as possible by doing trivial shit that does not move their life forward or doesn't hold weight in relation to their top priorities in life. What do you think about that?
Hi, Chelsea. Our friend Chelsea said hello, gave us a clap.
Chelsea.
Yeah, the hard, choose hard. Everyone's got to choose their own hard. I was thinking about that driving to work today. Sometimes life chooses it for us. I think about the hard it took to mourn my father's passing, come to grips with the reality that he was gone. Like, I didn't choose that hard. I didn't choose his death. So yes, there's nuance, but what's hard for me right now is staying consistent with diet. That's my hard. There's some hard at work. There's some hard in our relationship. So it's like choosing those things and not being lazy or complacent. Theo's got this line, which is, he was saying it more pointed to me, but he said, "You are complacent with mediocrity." I was like, fuck you, man. It was legit. It was legit because I was being lazy. I wasn't putting forth the effort. I was complaining, taking the easy road, etc. The other thing that I heard recently, I'm going to butcher the saying, but it was something like, if we choose hard for the short term, it becomes easier in the long term. But we got to get over that hump of the hard at the beginning. When we choose simple in the short term, it becomes harder in the long term. If I can figure out how not to come home and eat every snack at our house, right, it's going to be hard in the immediacy, but, when I do figure it out in the long term, right, maybe I reach my fitness goals. And I always come back to the health because that's the thing that I really grapple with for that's like the top of my list. But people's heart is all over the place, right? It's whether they speak up or not at work. It's how they are the contrarian or not. It is choosing not to believe the bullshit we make up in our head. It is, I don't know, maybe you've got some too, of the hard people don't choose.
Well, a lot of my clients do, the hard is not setting boundaries. And then they're overtaxed in the long term. And then they're, right, here's the cycle. The hard is to establish, communicate, and hold boundaries at work, at home, whatever. And so what happens is that's hard, so they don't do it. But then they're exponentially increasing their hard because they're overtaxed, they're overwhelmed, they're overdoing. I like the term, they're invisibly managing, micromanaging everything. They're overworking. They're getting up at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, sometimes in the morning to reply to the emails, to, I don't know, jump on a call if they're, working internationally or different time zones because they didn't set the boundary. So go to the root cause. The root cause of the boundary. Okay, well, that's going to be hard, or you have a long-term hard. Pick your hard. Also, be more discerning. I love that word, right? If you're reloading the dishwasher, if you're attending every single meeting that you're invited to, you are adding hard to an already hard life. So be discerning about what gets your time and attention. I talk about this all the time. Pick your battles, and life is going to be hard on either end. So choose the hard that's going to net you something positive, net what you want. Who gives a shit if the dishwasher is not loaded correctly? Who cares if the kids go out the door with mismatched socks, or they don't have a perfectly curated, organic, gluten-free, dairy-free, nut-free, something lunch, or whatever it is, right? We're making it hard. Strip it down to what hard is going to maximize my priorities and give me the best life. Have a little look at, it's kind of like a hard talk. We have a friend, runs her own business, and we were talking to her over Christmas, overwhelmed, stressed out, very difficult to scale and to grow. And she's spending time on a task that it doesn't net her anything. Like legitimately.
And she avoids it.
And she avoids it. So not only is it a task that is beyond menial, and actually there's a solution for it that is as simple as pushing a button. But then she avoids it. So then when you avoid it, you ruminate on it. And then you ruminate on it, and then you're stressed out, and your rumination distracts you from doing something that's actually going to grow the business, scale the business, take you out of being the doing and into the leadership. Like, it's a mess. So choose your hard. Did I pretty much summarize that?
Yep. Let's do the last one.
Okay, 5 minutes. Are we hard stop at 10?
Yes.
Damn it. Okay. All right, last one is 10xing your life. Okay, what does that mean? So as entrepreneurs, Darren and I, of course, read a lot of information about how to be an entrepreneur. So then we can take some of the, and okay, let me back up. There's a book by Ben Hardy and Dan Sullivan. It's called 10x is easier than 2x. Darren and I both read it and we're like, wow, like game changer. We are on board. Sign us up. And then I got to thinking of like, why is this reserved for entrepreneurs? Because our leaders are intrapreneurs. They're running their own business and their microcosm within the organization as a whole. And it also applies to you're the CEO of your house, of your life, of your health, of your nutrition. And so we take this in depending on the client and apply aspects of this book and philosophy into our leaders and companies' lives to help 10x by not doing, again, choose your hard, 2x tasks that distract you from a 10x living, from the best life, the best business, the best leadership, whatever it is you're going for. So there's like, I don't even know how many philosophies are in there. Like we could totally spend an entire month breaking this down. What for you was the most impactful tool baked into that book that you think applies to not just yourself, but your clients, our clients?
So real quick, going back to the example of our friend that owns a business, the thing that she's ruminating on, that she's not taking action on, is a 2x problem that is literally saving maybe pennies on the dollar. But it's causing her the invisible load of thinking about, I need to do this thing, but it's a pain in the ass and yada, yada, yada. And then when she actually does it, if she were to do the math of her hourly rate compared to how much she's saving on this task, it is not even remotely worth the time. 2x.
2x.
Now, to your question, one of the biggest things that I thought, or the biggest takeaways from that book, was this concept of who, not how.
Which is a whole book that Ben Hardy has written as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Irrespective of seniority at organizations. So CEO, C-suite, senior leaders, even the mid-level leaders. The act of delegation is lost on many, many leaders. Those leaders who don't delegate effectively are focused on how things are getting done and or what is my involvement, which then leads to micromanagement, which leads to overload, which is the hard they're choosing is to overload themselves. So the concept is when something needs to get done, who is going to do it? And once I assign it, if I'm the leader and I'm assigning it to Rachel to do the thing, then as clear as we can be about what the desired outcome is, that is the most important. Once Rachel and I are in agreement that we both understand the outcome, I do not care how she does it. Now, of course, within reason, integrity, morals, yada, 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 which I have trust that she's going to do. But it's not a matter of how she does it. It's who is doing it. Rachel, does she understand the outcome? Yes. Boom. She goes and does it. Too many leaders are not focused on the who. They're not focused on the outcome. They're interested in making sure Rachel does it my way. And if she doesn't do it my way, I'm going to course correct her because she did it wrong. So long-winded way to say who, not how, is one of the biggest takeaways from that book for me.
Which is a concept that we're implementing in our business right now with an outside sales team. Right? We don't have the bandwidth to do that ourselves or the reach to do it with just 2 people. And so who's going to do this for us, which we've invested in? Super cool. So with my minute, and I'm going to request that you block your calendar. So we have, like, if we need to go extra in future LinkedIn Lives, we can do that.
I'm going to request we keep it to the 45 minutes that we agreed to.
My greatest takeaway, it actually has shifted in different aspects of my business, but the most recent one is raising your standards. So number one, what are your standards? So when we talk about leaders, and we're going to talk about this in 2 weeks on our LinkedIn Live, is the leadership crisis is like, what is your standard of leadership? what does that even mean? Where is it coming from? And then communicating it, holding it, modeling it. So raising your standard wherever you are, if you want to grow personally, professionally, physically, and all as financially, it doesn't matter. You have to raise your own standard of expectations and start living up there in order to make that 10x growth. So raise your standards of yourself. And as a leader, too often we do this and we point, like, my team needs to raise its standards. Well, I'm going to challenge you. Have you raised your standards first? Then go and teach your team how to do that. So that was my biggest takeaway. And we're going to break down more of the leadership crisis and how to be a leader and the insecurities or the unknowns of being a leader in 2 weeks. I think that's the 21st. Okay. Yeah, every second Tuesday of the month we take off. And I know you got to go. So remember, we're going to be recording will be here as well as in our newsletter. If you don't have access to our newsletter, you need to reach out so we can get you on that and keep you up to date. And everybody, hang with me, Darren, needs to know, check back on our website next week because we're going to have a brand new flashy website representing the new TKG brand. And it's awesome. So we'll make sure you all get to see that too. All right. Any parting wisdom?
No.
Manage your own stress, man. All right. I'll see you. Bye. See you next Tuesday.
Hey, we need to agree to keep this at 45 minutes.
Then we probably can't have 5 topics.
Yes, we can. We just have to manage our time better.